Good morning, Neo fam. It is Laser here with another weekend video analysis. It is January 30th, 10:38 in the morning. And I come to you guys again this weekend to drop to you my weekly analysis. We don't just look at NIO, as you all know. Some of you guys are new here. We look at multiple China names. We like to look at Baba, Baidu, JD, Kweb. We also like to take a peek at the Seng as well as the US dollar. We're going to do all of that here today. But before I begin, there's a few things that I want to share, as I always do. First and foremost, if you're new here, this is just my opinion. If you're making a big financial decision, please do your own due diligence and your own research. I'm just a guy who loves the stock and likes to share where I see the stock going. Two, we drop these once per week. And three, before I begin, I figured I'd start with a little bit of a story time. I always start my videos with a little bit of a story, a life in the laser, actually. I live up in Canada where we've been having some, and I guess people in America too have been getting hit with probably some really, really cold weather. Well, where I live, it's gotten so cold that if your car is not plugged in with something called a block heater, cars up here in Canada have to have something called a block heater, which is basically you got to plug in your car. These are gas cars that have to be plugged in, and it basically heats up an element. It keeps your engine oil kind of warm and keeps your engine bay warm, so it warms up faster. Without it, your car may not even start. Well, it just so happens one of my cars, the engine block, it doesn't have an engine block on it. I gotta get that installed. And we got like this crazy cold weather, cold streak where my car wasn't starting all week long. I don't know if anyone had to boost their cars, but I had to get it boosted a couple times. Even one time my one car was plugged in and it still didn't start because it wasn't being driven around. And I got this crazy idea to pull the I had to pull my battery out, bring it inside, let it warm up to kind of get more voltage, put it back in, and then I was able to start the car actually. Now they actually, and I realized like, geez, that's just like, they should make something to kind of heat your battery up. They actually make those. So I actually ordered something off Amazon. It's called a battery blanket. It wraps around your blanket. You literally plug it into an extension where you park, and it heats up the battery during like really cold weather so that no matter what, your car will start, your battery stays warm, it doesn't lose voltage. I've been having to deal with that pretty much for the past week, and it's been brutal. And I'm just waiting for the weather to warm up because I can't stand this cold weather. I've been doing my walks, which I try and do my walks every single day indoors. And I hate being indoors. You don't get the fresh air. You don't get to see the trees. You don't get to see the animals and the birds and the grass. And just, it's just different. And the sunlight, I'm not getting a lot of that. I'm not walking out also in that cold weather. No way. I just do my walks inside. And I would say this week, by the way, has been probably my best week in a long time in the new year of just eating healthy. So I feel like I'm back on my healthy routine. I know I was sharing with you guys previously that I've kind of started eating unhealthy foods. I'm doing great. I haven't jumped on the scale. I don't believe in jumping on the scale every single day, but I will do that actually later this week. I would imagine I'm trending back down towards that very healthy range that I want to stay in. But that's it. You guys didn't come here to actually hear about me. I know you guys came here to hear about NIO and, of course, the rest of the Chinese names, and you wanted to just try and figure that out. I like to start that video off with just that. I will share quickly, and I just, if you're not already following me on Twitter, go right down into the description below this video. You'll see a link to Twitter. I'm also going to link one more time, a link to Discord. It's free. I post daily updates. So if you're looking to track NIO and you want to get daily updates, which for some people might be too much, but if you want to follow along, I recommend join in. It's free. You can get daily updates. I've been committed to posting daily updates on that on my Discord server. So please join. Having said that, let's dive right in. NIO, the 24-hour time frame, it has been honestly. Oh, wrong color. I prefer yellow, so we'll switch with yellow. Do I normally use yellow? I think I use white usually. Let's erase everything White, perfect. So it's been catching some bids. What did it close? It closed the week off at $4.70, 1.47% down. I've been tracking it all along on this 24-hour time frame. So we've made some progress since last week. Just to remind myself, so there's the Friday. Here was last Friday. Last Friday, if I bring your attention to this, we were still below the 200-day moving average right there. This Friday, we're now above the 200-day moving average, which is awesome because now it's finally joined its other Chinese names like Baba and Baidu and JD and Kweb. They all got the 200-day moving average. NIO is lagging big time, big time. And I will do just a quick jump to Baba, Baidu, JD so you guys can see what I mean. So today it got the cross, I think earlier this week on Thursday. Baba got the cross on last week, Wednesday the 14th, actually 16 days ago. Baidu got the cross the beginning of the year, almost 30 days ago. And even JD, which I believe was one of the names on the weekly time frame that's struggling, also got it pretty earlier on. So something in particular, specifically with NIO, is lagging this structure. Now, there was something that I wanted to talk about as well, which is very important. It's something that I like to consider. It's not going to cement it, but it increases my bias. That because the 200-day moving average made a lower low, notice this orange line I drew over here? I drove that orange line over here so that you could see that the yellow line, which is the 200-day moving average, made a lower low. I have seen setups on different names where the lower low, where the 200-day moving average makes a lower low, and the stock continues to make new highs. Specifically with NIO, we've seen similar setups like this before, where the 200-day moving average made a lower low. Most recently was last year. Very, very similar. Last year, it also had a lag. It lagged quite a bit. When I say lagged, Baba and the rest of China moved up while NIO was lagging. It made a lower low right here. I don't know if I'm going to zoom in more so you guys can see. This was the last time, and it led to a kind of a short-lived rally. It was a 30% move, but it was short-lived, and it was almost trying to play catch-up, but like almost too late. China topped out, and by the time China topped out, that's when those tariff news came, and then you just got like that big drop. Now, if I were to go historically back to the last time that it happened, and it's kind of weird how it's like once per year it happens, it brings me back to 2 years ago. So here it is 2 years ago. If I go 2 years ago, we also had a lower low. It was lagging. We got a big move up, but it was followed with, as you guys can clearly see. Now, I don't believe that things repeat forever and ever, and eventually the structure breaks. And I know things have broken on the bigger time frames. The weekly time frame still remains bullish. So there's still a chance that when NIO bottoms and decides to run, it goes higher. There's a chance that it just does that. I wanted that to be completely clear. But my bias, because of what I've seen previously, is that as we go up, I'm going to probably be looking for weakness. I'm expecting it something like that. It's going to come up. Maybe it's going to reject. And I'm hoping because of the strength, it just kind of gives you like that double bottom, and then it goes. This is what I'm expecting. That's kind of like a good scenario, or it does give you one last low, and then it does this. Okay, this is more my bias, only because of what I've seen in the past. Okay, it's okay because if it's not that. If it doesn't give you a lower high, and we keep going and we keep going and we keep going, that's okay. We can make adjustments as we go. We're allowed to do that. I believe it's very important to protect yourself, to always have, a conservative lens when it comes to the stock market. If we're expecting this completely, we reach this zone 650. I'm saying 650 actually. The reason I say 650 is if I go to Fibonacci and I draw a retracement level from the top to the bottom on a log scale, that's about six. The reason I'm saying 650 is a lot of retracements end up there, maybe even 6. And you're seeing weakness. When I say weakness, you're seeing like lower highs. You're noticing hesitation. I'm gonna have my I'm gonna be watching this zone, and if there's weakness there, and I'm expecting, okay, this is gonna be it. I may not be looking for that weakness, and I might have my guards down, and I might miss it. I don't want to miss that. I don't want to miss something, a move like that, where it ends up saying, there's weakness. And what do we know so far is that NIO is lagging quite a bit amongst the rest of the Chinese peers. It's been really struggling to kind of just get out of the gates here. And there's a lot of hesitation. And that's why I don't want to be caught off guard. I know nobody wants to be caught off guard, which is why my bias leans towards that. It doesn't have to be, but as we approach these levels, if there's just continuous strength, okay, so be it. We'll actually have to then reanalyze it. But we're allowed to lean in with the bias, and that's what my bias is. Now, the weekly time frame remains bullish. Okay? It does remain bullish, and we need to see a move soon. NIO hasn't made its move soon. And there was one day where it bounced up 9% or 10%, and then it just gave all the gains back. So it's really choppy, the price action right now. It's not completely clean. And we've talked about this, like when our weekly velocity flips up, you get a big rally. It hasn't flipped up. What will make it flip up? What's going to flip this weekly time frame up? We want a higher low, clean higher low on our 24-hour time frame. I take us back to the 24-hour time frame. Let's remove our drawings. And we pay attention specifically right over there. It was January. The lower low. And I want to let you know how tricky NIO has been, because this doesn't do it justice, so I have to replay it. Can I do it like that? This doesn't do it justice. Okay, so when we were here, which was just the middle of the month, I'm like, okay, higher low, lower high, higher low is what I was saying. So let's just play this forward one bit. Did it play forward? Okay. And I'm like, perfect. Higher low. I started getting like super excited. Like this is what you needed. It was marginal, but I would take it. I'm trying to look for that rally. And it followed with another lower high. I followed essentially with a lower low. Ouchie. Okay. It basically took these lows, made a lower low on that day, which was January 20th. Okay, so then we walk along, and as you can see, as the day plays out, I'm just going to play these days out. Playing these days out. Since this low, the velocity has not given us like a negative down day. It hasn't gone down. I could see it like maybe saying like, okay, hey laser, it came down this day, but remember velocity is also measuring the speed. A 2% and 1% day, those aren't enough to kind of like really swing the day down on the velocity. And then I look to the weekly. Well, the weekly hasn't curled up yet. And that's what we're waiting for. And so the only explanation that I could have for NIO is that it wants to still put in a clean higher low. where I could see with the naked eye, and so could you, that the velocity is going down. And what that would do, because since this January 20th, it's been doing nothing but up, which I like. I think that's bullish. Nothing but up. What that does is it makes, when the higher low starts to form, when that higher low starts to form, it makes it more robust. It's not as fragile. You've got more room, because where does it need to hold to put in a higher low? Right there. All it does is it needs to hold that low to put in a higher low. And if we get this clean higher low, bringing you back to the weekly, I believe that's when your weekly time frame will start moving. That's when we'll actually start seeing NIO start pushing up. It won't be hesitating like it is right now, because it's hesitating. It's not really moving. You're like, what the heck's it doing? Why is it not going? There's a lot of hesitation. And it doesn't help that the broad market is actually weak at the moment. So there you have where I see NIO hasn't quite given us that lower high. And so this changes what I'm looking for. And it may want to change what you may want to take a look at and consider. So you may be asking, Laser, if you're expecting this to make a clean higher low, what would that look like on a lower time frame? So if I were to go to the last time it pivoted lower, I think that might have been the last time. It might have been before that. And then I go over here, which is where we are right now. What would cause this to swing back low? So we're going to go now. Oh, I'm still in replay mode. Let's delete that. Okay. We're going to go to the 4-hour time frame to kind of take a look. Take a look what caused the 24-hour right over here to pivot down. On the 4-hour, we got a lower high that came in, which signaled a little bit of weakness there, and followed by a lower low. So the 4-hour velocity, and it also broke below the 200-day moving average. And at that point, it took, by the way, and this is important. Pay attention to this part. This is a very important part. From that lower high, or let's just say from the top to bottom. We'll measure from the top. There was your top to bottom. It took 21 to 22 days, about 3 weeks, to reset, to finally recover, because it was a pretty big pullback, and that's how long it took to reset before you put in a higher low. That's its first. So since this lower high, it took 22 days to put the very first higher low in, which was January 21st. Why is that higher low important? I'll take us back to the 24 hours. Notice this midline is it ended up causing this pivot towards the upside where it's pushing us up. And now what I'm anticipating going into next week, especially now with the weakness, and I think that this is something, if I go into the 4 hours, where are we? So it's getting messy, this chart, so I'm going to erase all the drawings. We're essentially where we were 3 weeks ago. At the end of the year, where we ended up making this really beautiful move to 580, and it broke above the 4-hour, broke above the midline, and then it came back for a pullback, and then it made a lower high. We're almost, I would say it's almost the exact same setup. Okay, it's similar, not exact, but it's similar. And there's really only two ways I can see this kind of playing out. Is it plays out the same. You got a lower high and it resets for 21 days. What is that? Where does that put us? And not exactly 21, but I'm just using that as an estimate. That would put you at like end of February, essentially, if that were the case, from whenever it decides to top out, or if it tops out. Or, this thing goes. It's different this time. Maybe things are different this time, actually. And it puts in finally a higher low here. You get that higher low. Anytime you're above the midline, it shows strength. You can see it with the naked eye. I will make it more obvious for you if you can't see it, but I will show this to you how there's a highlighter tool. There we go. It's green. Let's change it to red. Erase it, and I'm going to show this to you. When we're below the midline, which we were over here, right up until there, you'll notice that's weakness. We're currently above that midline, so there's strength, which means, hey, there's actually a possibility that going into next week, that NIO can actually push higher. That this is going to be the dip. We're going to actually start seeing a rally. That could very well be the possibility. It's kind of in that gray zone. But because when I go back to the 24-hour time frame and then I take a look at the setup, I know I personally want to see a clean higher low. My bias is I want to see one more clean higher low. So if that's what I'm looking for, I'm going to be anticipating a lower high that's going to form. That would start the reset. And that's what I'm anticipating. And then I take you guys to the 1 hour time frame, and we look here what's happening. I'm gonna erase everything. The 1 hour, I try and avoid doing the 1 hour, but the 1 hour is great to kind of manage the little moves. You could see our 1 hour. Made a lower low over here. The last time it made a lower low was on Wednesday. And I thought that's when it was going to reset, and it didn't. It pushed higher, actually. Broke above, higher low, and then it pushed up. Is it going to do the same thing? Are we going to actually see Monday break back above and things go again? There's that real possibility. But my bias, as you guys know, is I'm expecting that lower high. We can get a bounce. This, to me, would fit my bias as to what I'm expecting. It doesn't mean that's what's going to happen, but I do think a lower high will eventually form in here, which will pull NIO down lower. So we get a move going early into next week once again. Maybe 5 is a nice round number. Can't do it. And then you get that last sweep lower. And where does that take you? And that it won't happen like that, like a boom move, like more like a over the span of what I would imagine would take 20 days or so, roughly. What I would imagine is, as I draw out this line, notice we still haven't come down and test this line. So I like to draw trend lines on the regular scale, and that puts us at, pretty sure, right around 438. If I drew that right, I'll even be generous and put it like that. Now, I've been saying this number, and I think I'm not the only one. You go on Twitter, you've got people saying it all across Twitter who are calling this. It's an important Fibonacci, because if we were to, I'm just going to bring your attention to the chart here. This is important, and this is why a lot of people have saying, well, like, what's going on with $4.39? Is it from this low? Or no, I think it's from the total low. Or was it? Where did I get 439 from? Oh, let's see. Did I do that right? Yes, that's exactly right. From the total bottom to the total top. Total bottom, total top. You'll notice this 492 zone was almost acting like a support. It's now been resistance. We haven't come down and tested this zone at 439. And for confluence that would support that is we have like this trend line here. And that trend line here, I'm just going to, because it's going to get all messed up, I'm going to do this. Do a horizontal line at 439 so you can see that. Switch the scale to regular. And you can now almost see a scenario where it kind of comes down and does the bottom. Where have we seen something like this before? Now, I've had some people say like, hey, just because you got a trend line down here, it doesn't need to touch it. And you're absolutely right. It doesn't have to. And like I say, I think there's still a possibility this can go. However, where have we seen something like this before? Here's the scary part about Nio. And I don't know if this is like done and designed intentionally to kind of fake people out. Maybe it is, but let me show you. I want to bring your attention to right over here, where it didn't actually come down and give you that test. And hang on, I got to switch this to, I don't know if I actually was, I'm drawing that nicely because I remember it just supporting and holding. Okay. How does that look? Where it looks ready to go, and it pulls back. And where are we right now with this? It does look ready to go. It looks ready to go just at a glance. And is it going to just pull? Are we just going to get that pullback right down there? And then it wants to give you that move. This is what I'm questioned with, actually, completely. And that's what I'm watching into next week. I believe Nio is setting up for that final move lower, and that's where I got 439 from, by the way, you guys. When I do these, and you'll see some people on Twitter, I've seen some people on Twitter talk about it. It hasn't tested 439 or 438, whatever the number is, like, and it's kind of like undecided here. Will it go lower? So I want to show you guys one thing here. And this is for the bulls. Pay attention. This is going to be a bullish thing that I'm going to share with you. Something for peace of mind, because I want you guys to know I'm not bearish, Nio. Long term, I'm very, very, very bullish, Nio. And I share this because this actually completely contradicts my bias. This is why I want to share this. On Nio, I've not seen it, but on Baba, I have. I'm going to show you now Baba. Take a look. I'm going to erase this because I hate a mess. Okay, I hate the mess on the charts. We are now going to just quickly jump to the weekly. Hopefully you're all there with me. Notice how when Baba made its weekly move, when Baba made its weekly break above, okay, it broke back, which was right over here. It broke back down. It even broke under the midline, which actually happened with Nio. Okay. And then it had its big explosive move. Now, if you look at that move, by the way, if you look at this whole move from, I don't know if it's fair to go from, let's see where did it go. Yeah, it is fair. It from the bottom to the top, it hit the golden pocket, 81.26. And then it went. Now I want to show you one other thing. This is bulls. You better be paying attention. This is the juicy bit that you don't want to miss in this video. So we go to the 24-hour time frame. Where does it? Let's go back to see what that looked like on the 24 hours. Remember this run that I talked about and it coming down to the golden pocket? So here's the juicy bit that I wanted to show you. That Baba, hold on. My God, why is this arrow so big? Okay. Baba made a lower low on the 200-day moving average. And remember I told you I've seen setups like that before and it didn't matter? Look where it hesitated too. Here's the funny bit. It hesitated right there. And that's the one thing that I was saying that might happen with Nio, but it won't follow through. So this is getting messy. Let's delete this. Right to the golden pocket. Where most reasonable investors, if you were following, if we just said lower low, it's definitely guaranteed. Well, it didn't. It pushed higher. It pushed way higher. Okay. In fact, we got above the midline. During that zone, it gave you the first pullback and then it pushed way higher. What did it do on the weekly, by the way? For Baba. We're looking at Baba as a great way to study and anticipate what to expect for Nio. But Baba did the same thing. Big move up. Followed by, obviously, that pullback. And And then I want to show you Nio one more time. What does Nio look like on the weekly? Back below the midline, kind of stalling. We draw this out. Golden pocket is 425, but it doesn't have to be there. It's 439, 425. I'm seeing some similarities between this and Baba. So there is that possibility, which is why I said in the beginning of my video that it doesn't cement the fact that it needs to make a lower high. But it is something that I want to take a look at. So we go back again to Baba. Sorry, I think Baba is a great case study here. And then we study this this move here that happened. Because if the same thing happens in Nio, this move, could this have been, was there any type of weakness here? So if I go to the 4-hour time frame, sorry, there's so many arrows. I need to clear this off. I can't stand a messy chart. During this move, right over here, so it did make a lower high actually here and a lower low and showed weakness on that 4-hour time frame, and it reset. But what it did do is it didn't take 21 days to reset. It took basically, and let's see, did it make a higher low right here? A marginal one? That might even be a lower low. No, it made a higher low, and it basically resolved right in that window. And it said, no, we're going to go actually, which is difficult. And then 1 hour is like, okay, let's look at the hourly. We'll probably see the full reset. We can see now this is the same zone where it kind of played a part. You had a lower high. It showed weakness. It reset, made a lower low. You started building higher lows here. So there were signs that like, hey, like there's some short-term strength. Maybe this thing keeps going. And it did. And so Baba and Nio, I think there's now a lot of similarities, except Nio's behind. So that is for the bulls to say like this could very well be it. And I wanted to show you here, Baba. Again, one last time, Baba. We're going to go and analyze that 24 hours. And notice how it looked ready to go. And it didn't launch until it gave you that big drop. Now, let's see, just for fun. We're going to draw out this trend line again for Baba. I don't know if you would do this. Does it actually touch it? It doesn't touch it from there. I'm trying to lean into my bias here. There it is. So here's an interesting thing. Also with Baba, you could have made an argument like it looks ready to go. All of a sudden you get that last drop. Up it went. And on that last drop, by the way, on our 4 hours, well, it did make a lower low, but it didn't take long for it to make a higher low. Right over here. Didn't take long to make a higher low right over there. That was your bottom, actually. A higher low right there, and it went away. It went. And this is kind of the funny thing. I gotta show you, because if we look here, I'm only seeing this and recognizing it now. Let's remove all the drawings. Take a look at this 4-hour setup. You have this big move. It reset. Had another big move here. I wouldn't call it big, but 81 to 88. That was significant. And notice, it made it again above our 200-day moving averages, making higher lows. And then you get that clean drop. Now we go to Nio. 4 hours. Okay, we'll just bounce back one more time if you guys didn't see it. Some of you guys didn't. I imagine most of you guys didn't see it. Maybe some of you guys did. Nio We're on the 4 hours, and let's zoom out because we can't see anything. We had that big move. Another move. Is there going to be that one drop? Like it's going to go whoosh. It's going to make your bottom. It's going to tap 439 or I think it's like 420, whatever. And then does it go? And does it do the Baba, like push the highs? There's a possibility. What I do know is they won't let it go in a straight line. They're going to keep us all guessing. And what they'll most likely do, what would be the hardest part for the bulls and bears is you get a little hesitation right at the golden pocket here. I'll go to the log. Oops. You're going to see that hesitation here. That would be so perfect. If you were a bull or a bear or you're a market maker or whatever, there's going to be some sort of battle that will take place here. And it's going to have some of the bulls thinking, who cares? It's going to go way higher. It'll definitely have some of the bulls thinking, this is it. And it might be a repeat and it'll come back lower. We analyze that and you have to be nimble on that point in time. It's not going to be easy. It's never been easy. But I think one thing's certain. In both of these scenarios, and this is what's in question, is this is way higher than the current price. So that's going to be a good position to be in if you're a bull. If we go up 40% and then it drops, I mean, or takes a break, you're in a good position, way better than you are right now. So I think that's very healthy and a good way to be approaching this, actually. So that's what we're doing here for NIO. I do believe, and if you guys want to just hear my full analysis, I do believe it's going to give you one last drop. We now have market weakness. I see some strength a little bit on the 4 hours. It hasn't given us a clean lower high yet, so it might give you that bounce, and then it drops. And I think that drop will be the last drop if you get it. It's not guaranteed, but if we get that drop, that's a gift. That will be the gift on NIO, because the following move will be straight. I think straight to 650. There's going to be a battle there. It's coming. It's coming. But if we get this drop, by the way, timing wise, that means the 4 hours we're setting, that may take about 3 weeks to resolve, which puts your timeline to the end of February. Take a look at March too. I'm just thinking this out. It comes down and it takes like a few weeks. It runs up and now we're at the battlegrounds right at earnings. Are we going to get the lower high? Or are we going to push up lower and it'll happen perfectly on earnings? That to me is picture perfect timing. And the stock market has a way of doing things like that. So that's the way I see it. I hope that's really valuable for you. I'm not going to talk anymore about NIO. I feel like I've talked a lot about it, but I thought it was important for me to kind of share this because it's kind of in a delicate spot at the moment. Maybe we actually start seeing it continuing to push, but these are my views on NIO. Baba, take a look at Baba for 1 second. We're on the 4 hours before I go to the 24, which I should have started 24, but you could clearly see a lower high right over here, and that's a lower low. It's resetting. We know resets could take a lot of time. We've got some gaps down here for Baba. So Baba's resetting here, and it did make also a lower high in that price. Oftentimes when you see that, it might even want to sweep the lows. You might see it come back and give you a big pullback, potentially. But let's look at the 24s. 24-hour is strong. So here's the thing. For the 24 hours to maintain this bullish structure, you don't want it to make a lower low. You want it to make a higher low, higher low. It still has some room to come down. It's still not looking fragile. It still looks good. Our 200-day moving average is going up, which suggests you're going to get a big move. I am bullish on Baba. Like, I think the setup looks fantastic. It had a really large move up. It's resetting and cooling down. I think that's all it is a reset. That bottom on Baba will show up as a higher low. It might even be something like that, and you get a bottom. Doesn't always have to take 21 days to reset. but to me, that fits my narrative and bias with Nio. But we do see some weakness actually happening on Baba. And Baba's a really good name, actually. Baba's showing a lot more strength. It's one of the top two names next to Baidu in China. And so I go to the 4 hours. 4 hours is looking like, there's a cool off here period, and it's making lower lows. And at some point, before you can say like, oh, I would never anticipate a V bounce. You could get continuation, but I'm waiting for this. If you're a Baba bull, you want to get that higher low, and that signals, okay, we've hit the bottom, and this thing is ready to give you continuation. And so long as this higher low on the 4 hours, which signals the reset, happens before this reaches the low, and we get a higher low on the 24 hours, Baba's still good. And if you ask me, my bias is very, very, very bullish on Baba. Extremely bullish. This is that's the way I see it. Baidu is interesting. Notice Baidu's a little bit more fragile. In fact, I think it made a lower low. One lower low doesn't break the trend or structure, but it did make a lower low. If I were to go to the 4 hours, I probably would see the reset that took place here. Higher high and then lower low and lower high. It's barely noticeable, but it's resetting as well. Baba's the same thing. It's resetting. Our 400-day moving average is curling a lower. That was your lower high, your lower low. It's coming down. It's fully resetting. Now, what makes Baidu different, though, is Baidu actually made a lower low on that velocity. What do we know when you make a lower low is it needs to reset again. And when you make a lower low, what that means is even if this Baidu bounces, it can no longer bounce and just run, because it'll be bouncing from a lower low. It'll have to cool off and retest and give you a higher low. All right. And those signs will come on the 4 hours when it gives you a higher low, which, as I can tell right now, it's not showing that. It's still resetting. Resetting is healthy. I mean, this is going to be healthy if Baidu comes down anyways. But Baidu may take a little bit longer to resolve. It may end up the same story for Baba too. But Baba actually looks more healthier. Baba looks less fragile than Baidu, because it's still possibility of forming in a higher low where Baidu put a lower low in. That makes Baba the winner. And if I haven't always been able to say that. It's always been Baidu which had the best setup. Now it's Baba, I think, is doing better. JD. So JD's the next on my list. I looked at JD, and I think I talked about this previously. And if I didn't, I apologize. But notice JD, I meant, it made a lower low over here on the 200-day moving average. And what happened with that lower low? Made a lower high. And when you make a lower low, you always have to come back and retest and make a higher low. And it's actually setting that up for a higher low. And when I look to JD, which has already been correcting, it's already jumped ahead of the game. If it forms a higher low here, if I go to the 4 hours, is it close to resetting? I don't see it close to resetting. I know it's resetting. But if it can reset, I would say over the next few days and put in a higher low. So if it can do that, maybe something like this, you could see a big, 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 big final. That would be your next higher low, which would coincide. That's interesting. With your weekly. Your weekly actually on Baidu, it made a lower low. And I think there's going to be a big move that's actually brewing here on Baidu. And the reason I think it's big, that's brewing on Baidu, my bias leans is the 200-day moving average is making a higher low. That is beautiful. And I'm going to call it right now. If you're a JD bull, on this next rally, over the next 2 to 3 months, JD is going to go to 48. It's going to tap this. It'll touch it. And you'll come back down. That's what I think is going to happen once it's resolved. Come on, that's beautiful. If you're a bull, you should be happy about that. I'm not. It's not going to come all the way back down. You might even just get higher lows, but something that's the bull case. So that's what I think. I like JD. JD has a great setup. It's technically a better setup today. Actually, it's not. It's not, because the weekly's not as good as Nio. Nio's setup still reminds me so much of Baba. So I shouldn't say that. I do like Nio's setup. I think Nio's setup is fantastic. It reminds me so much of Baba's setup. It reminds me of this, which was followed by that. Yeah. Anyways, Kweb's weakness again. Okay, on Kweb, because lower low, and then it actually made a lower low. Sorry, that was your lower low, and it's kind of doing the same thing as JD, right? It's coming back down, but if it can give you that higher low, it's gonna kick things off. Now on that weekly, it's already looking like it wants to curl up, and it's gonna need to make a really big move here, actually, for it to kind of reverse this bearish trend, because it's not bearish. It's not a bearish trend, but it did make a lower low. So a little concerning look for Kweb, actually. And on that 24 hours, things still seem to be resolving. And I go to the 4 hours on Kweb. I could see that it reset, tried to make a higher low. Now it made a low. It's resetting again. So you need to see another higher low for you to kind of start getting bullish. Oh, I'm getting exhausted. I feel like this video is going to be a long one. I apologize. Wow, Bitcoin's down 6%. That's weird. I don't even know if I want to talk about Bitcoin, because that's going to be for a different video. But if you have questions about Bitcoin, feel free to jump in my Discord. I'll be happy to talk to you about the setup on Bitcoin if you want. I don't have time for this video to talk about Bitcoin. Hang Seng Index. This is the one we care about the most. Look at this. It had an awesome move. Awesome move. And I always mentioned this before, when it was rising here. Why did it not give you that blow off the top? Each top on Hang Seng, there was 1, there was 2, there was 3, all took place right at this level. 1, 2, 3. And when we were like consolidating, I'm like, what the hell? Why have we not gotten there? And so I would anticipate a top to kind of form right there for China. And it looks like we're going to get much higher. And I lost my parallel chart because I must have erased it. But let's see if I can get a new one here. That's a decent looking one on the log scale. It's decent. I don't normally do that, but that shows 31,000 is a potential on that log scale. I usually do it on the parallel channels. That's the way I usually do it on a regular scale when I'm drawing these out. Oh my God, look at that. That is an interesting position to be in. It hasn't been able to break out of this. Actually, I don't even think I drew that right. Was it like this? I think that's how I normally draw it. Yeah. There it is. China. That's my chart that I'm gonna stick with. You can see it tried for a breakout over here and it failed. It failed here. And you can see this is where your top came in before it decided to kind of give you a nice big pullback. And you can see right over here too. Every single major pullback happened there. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't have to, but I would imagine, and you can see it's trying to hold that midline. A continuation into next week would take you into 29,000. Potentially above. If it goes above, I'm always going to entertain that for sure. You're going to see, it sounds crazy. 33,000. Is that a crazy target? No, it's not, because where has it been heading? It's been heading to the previous high. Like, that's exactly where it's heading, right? You can see it. It's been trying to recover. It's been doing that all along. In fact, oh, look at that. Did it break? Is that the log scale? That's the regular scale. Are you joking? Wait, did it break out? It actually broke out. This is, wait. It's trying to break out. By the way, the measured move is if you broke this out, how big of a move that was? That was like you would get all-time highs on China. Like it's crazy. Like that's great. That's a great look. But here's the interesting thing that you guys need to be cautious about. It's sitting right at resistance. Your Hang Seng Index, the 200-day moving average since March 2024 has never broken below that. And it actually made a lower low. If it makes a lower high, you could see a giant correction. Potentially on that weekly. It does have a scary look on that weekly. I don't like that it's broken below the 200 moving average. I don't like that it made a lower low relative to these lows. For continuation, it still needs to make a higher low. And what better time to kind of maybe give you a correction? But when I go to the 24 hours, I lost my chart, my parallel chart. I think I deleted it. I'm not going to draw it again, but I believe that I can do that pretty fast, I think. Regular. Why does it look so different every time I'm drawing this? What did I do differently this time? I'm going to have to go back. I'm running out of time. So yeah, there we go. 28. So that's what? Going into next week, can we get another 6%? Man, that'd be fantastic. That would be an awesome tailwind. But the way I look at it right now in the 24-hour time frame, it looks like it could cool off. 4 hours breaking below the 200-day moving average. It did make a lower low. I'd watch for that lower high, which would signal a reset, and then you would need that higher low to signal a bottom. Last but not least, the US dollar. Trump even spoke about it. He said something along the lines of, I love where it is. I love where the US dollar is. I think it's in a great spot. And based off that, I think he said that right around when it was like 99, and it like pummeled. It like went down 1%. I was like, this was the day he did it, I think Thursday. And it just went boo, 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 boo. It went crazy. And it looks like I was saying like, oh my God, it might make on the 24 hours, it might make a higher low. It didn't. Look at that. It made a lower low. You got a lower low here actually. And that really killed the chart here from the trend. And despite it bouncing up 1%, which is going to send the velocity up, I would anticipate another higher low to form. On your weekly is in an interesting spot because it made a higher low, a lower high. And so long as it holds here, it could make another higher low and you could get that continuation. To me, I don't see, I don't think the US dollar has actually had its chance to make a move yet, but it's below the midline, which is weak. Last time we had that, the US dollar declined quite a bit. So you are going to want to see, I'm watching it. I can't really pinpoint it. Right now, the 24-hour setup it's busted. It's completely busted. Even if it continues up, I would expect it to bounce. You would have to see that for it to recover completely. And that's a possibility. And if that were to happen, US dollar back up to 104. And here's the thing that I wanted to say. This is why I wanted to end this video off. I'm not just saying this for the sake of saying this. The US dollar, they're telling you, and not just you, but influencers are saying this and everybody's saying this. And I've been trading for a while to remember this. Everybody kept saying, oh my God, if you don't own assets, you're going to lose out to inflation. You got to buy assets. The US dollar is going to go down. You got to be in equities. They're saying that again right now. If you're not in equities, you're going to get left behind and the US dollar is going to drop and you're going to lose your money. The SPY and Q and IDM are all at the all-time highs. If they were going to rug pull it and pull it down towards the highs, what are they going to tell everybody to do? Yeah, get in. US dollar is going to go down. You need to be in the stock market at the all-time highs, is what they're telling you. You better get in now before the US dollar crumbles at the all-time highs. And so, okay, so any reasonable person says, well, I don't want to lose value. I'm going to put my money in the stock market. I'm going to pick out like a good name like NVIDIA. And all of a sudden you put your money, which was sitting in maybe a US cash funds, and you put it into like NVIDIA or whatever you do, or Apple, because you're a reasonable investor. And the stock market starts to go down. And your US dollar starts to go up. That's twisted, but that's how they do it, and they actually did the same thing. I remember before the U.S. dollar, when it was down at 100, everyone was saying the same thing. You better be in the equities, and the U.S. dollar rose like crazy. They did it here too. Wasn't long ago, 2021. If you're not in the stock market, you're going to lose to a declining dollar. Dollar goes up, goes into a bear market. So be careful following those narratives on the US dollar. It is very in a fragile spot. This, I think, is bizarre, whatever the hell is happening to Bitcoin. And if you want to know my opinion on Bitcoin, which is how I'm going to wrap up my video, join my Discord. I'll be happy to share my analysis on Bitcoin, which I think is exciting, like what's actually happening on Bitcoin. Like, it's very exciting. I do have an opinion on it, but I don't have time for this video. This video is way too long. So if you've watched this whole video, I got to clap to you. Thank you so much. And if you've been supporting my channel, I really do appreciate you guys. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment sections below. If you're new here, don't forget to smash the subscribe button. That really helps my YouTube channel. As well as, don't forget to smash a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Having said all that, it is the weekend. It's 11:30. I'm going to end my video here, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful weekend. Cheers.